Hello and welcome to one of those beautifully clear late autumn days, right on that cusp of the water element, in that place, as we spoke of last week, where the metal element begins to merge with that of the water element. And of course, water is a lot about that journey of return. And although it has a lot of associations and metaphors that we can use with water, its ultimate aim is to take us back to our point of origin. It moves us inwards just as the sun gets shorter, the days become shorter as the sun lengthens the night. It's moving us behind the eyes. It's moving us to that place underneath the skin, away from the light. And it's almost as if in the winter season, the late autumn and winter season, we literally turn our backs to the sun for this particular journey. And it's taking us in and down as water does, constantly seeking this lower level to find the very darkest reservoirs within the body and within the psyche. Now, we were born with eyes closed, and when we die, when we leave this physical body, our eyes will close as we shut down this light, this sunlight, this external world. We go really in those moments, or we arrive from, or we return to this some point of vastness that is on the inside of us. And it's a point that we struggle to find language for because it is so vast, because it is so big. And it's the quality of yin, because yin, like water, is always trying to find, it's always descending, it's always looking for the lowest point in its journey, and it's looking for that so it can meet that lowest point and then it can rest there. So this is where we're going. This is the journey of winter, is to keep moving us back into this point where we are returning, we are coming home to this place inside of ourselves, deep inside the psyche, deep inside the body, and we're returning there to rest. We're not returning there or moving into the winter season to live in perpetual summers. We're returning there for a deep a deep renewal from our reservoirs, and these are not found on the surface of the body. These are not found outside the skin. The deep reservoir of nourishment is not your brand new mobile phone. It's not your fancy new car. The place where you are deeply nourished comes very deep inside of you, and it's a journey that sits behind the eyes. And water, the element that is associated with the season of winter, well, that's the one that takes us there. I think about the way that water covers 70% of our planet. And, although there are some discussions around how much water makes up the human body, let's agree on about 60% kind of being a conservative midway. Now, there's more water in a newborn. A newborn baby has more water. It is more closely associated with that element on a physical level than an aging body. So you can see that the decline of water within the body parallels the decline of vitality and health as we age. So water in that way is like this kind of beautiful measure, if you like, or this, how long's a piece of string, it's like the length of our life is held inside this inner string. And then one step further, when we think about the water element in the physical body, think about how many substances dissolve in water. And then also think about how many substances sit in suspension within it. So it's this beautiful conduit of many things. This capacity for it to hold a dissolving state or hold a suspended state is an essential property for our metabolism. It's it is it is crucial to life. So without this water in our body, the very essential processes of, digestion and assimilation and elimination would not be possible within us. But yet, so essential is it, it's weird that it remains so mysterious. And I think in a way it's been lovingly designed like that. It's because not all things are meant to be known. It's critical that the weave is open in some places, that the weave remains mysterious, because that gives us something to grow into, to think into, to feel into. It gives us something in which to become. And I think water itself is just in its sheer physicality is a deeply mysterious element. I certainly find it so. It's to me, it's like a thick mist that covers the path. And it's like somehow, again, we're not meant to look to the future of our path out there during the winter time. We're really being encouraged to look to the future, or to cultivate a sense of future in here. That again is a repeat of this metaphor to just keep moving in, this invitation to keep moving in, to keep going down. And this is again the work of the season of winter and the element of water. Think also about the way that water literally changes its state. It covers all three states. It can be a liquid, it can be a solid, it can be a gas, and then it can return unchanged to any of those states numerous times. Again and again it can do this. And it can be an ice cube in the fridge. It can be an enormous glacier moving down through a mountain valley. It can be a tiny little spring that feeds a stream. It can be a bubbling brook. It can be a cascading waterfall. It can be a powerful, swaying river that cuts through the landscape. And it can also be these vast currents in the ocean. Think further still. It can be a pond. It can be a lake. It can be a well. And all of these states, they're holding stillness, depth, power, determination, the quality of flow, of purification, of life force. So whether it's a glass of water or a fish tank or a river, think also about the adaptability of water, not only in the state that it chooses to take, but in the way that it can meet every protrusion of its container. Now, it's contained by earth, and so you can see that in the sheer cliffs of a gorge. You can see that in the banks of a river, or the crater edges that might hold a mountain lake, and the coastlines that hug the edges of water in the oceans. Not only that, but water's mystery kind of continues in that it allows itself to be displaced by a swimmer in the sea, as equally as it allows itself to be displaced by an ocean liner. I mean, it's an incredibly adaptable and deeply unknowable substance, only because it is so constantly changing and so able to yield to any shape that we might ask of it. I think inside a water personality, when we're talking about the five elements in terms of personalities, we're going to see the same thing. We see this mystery. It's kind of unfathomable. We don't quite know how to get to the bottom of it. It's maybe confusing, and it's coming all the way back to that idea of the um, kind of like mist obscured pathway. The other thing I think, that's really beautiful and dangerous about water is that it holds this incredible potential for destruction. Even this like tiny little mountain stream, um, the element of water itself that makes up that mountain stream is innately destructive, because the tiny little mountain stream is what carved the Grand Canyon. It creates mountain ranges. It it is able to form vast cave systems. And so in this way, its beauty is it kind of disguises its danger. Anybody who grew up by the sea knows never ever to turn their backs on it. Anybody who grew up by the sea also knows about the currents, the rips, and the tides that move through their particular stretch of the ocean. Because you have to be, because if you're going to play with water, if you're going to enter into water's domain, you need to be aware of the rules, because it kind of demands it demands a respect by its sheer force, its unseen potential to wipe a coastline clear if it chooses to do so. And I sometimes think even in the clarity and the beauty of a winter's day is, even though it's awe-inspiring, even though it is so pure and clear, it's this very purity that strips bare and makes everything in the landscape almost extreme in its starkness. If you think about the way you've got that white, heavy, dense snow cover, and then you've got the darkness of the trees sort of contrasting against that whiteness. It is an incredibly naked and beautiful landscape, and it's one that we only ever see in the winter season. And it's seen in contrast to the heaviness of that snow that is pushing everything downwards, making it so that it has to descend. Now it is, of course, in the five element wheel. If we were to begin the process, I mean, it's a wheel, so you can begin it anywhere really, or it has a relevant beginning point with any of the elements. But often, when we talk about the five elements, one begins the discussion with spring with the rising. And then it moves quite naturally towards the summer season, the fire element, with the fullness and the flourish of that time of year. And that's the yang rise, that's the yang ascend through the cycle. And then you've got the descend, which is the becoming yin, where that fullness and flourishing becomes the harvest, it becomes the letting go, it becomes the creation of space. And then that space and purity that has been created in the autumn season and the element of metal leads us down into water, this last and most mysterious element. And it it's about that place of death, but think about how on the other side of the water element, on the other side of winter, is spring. So it's also the place of conception. It's where everything was conceived. It's it's where we were conceived in the darkness. We gestated in our mother's wombs in the darkness. And we have to return to this darkness on a daily basis. We have to sleep. We know that when we don't sleep when sleep is interrupted, or when sleep is difficult for any reason, we know that not only does it have a profound effect on the physical body, but it has a profound effect on the mental state as well. So we have to drop into this darkness even on a daily basis. We can't escape the essential nature of this darkness. And this is exactly the same place where we're going to merge back into when the body dies. So I have wondered more and more in recent years, why is it that we were taught to fear the dark? Like, where did that thinking come from? Where did the impetus for those lessons start in our Western world? The darkness was given evil names, you know, like Satan, like hell, and it was talked about in terms of punishment. That this is where you went when you were bad, bad being the opposite of good. So and I think that we were taught that because really the darkness holds the truth about existence. It holds a truth that is free. It holds a truth that can never be manipulated, and it can never ever be monetized. And I wonder more and more about, the motivation behind this idea of hell and Satan and, badness, the Badlands. Because, in its pure form, winter, darkness, the bottom of the well, it's all Shiva. It's like it's Mahadeva. It's the Shiva is one of the principal deities in Hinduism, and that name Shiva, it literally means that which is not. So if we were to think that that which is creation, and that which is not is Shiva, it means that nothingness is actually the basis of our existence. Now, science is grappling, modern day science is grappling with the language that, anyone who's studied the ancient texts knows that this language has been in operation for thousands of years. Before the written language, even, we had the written word, we had language for this darkness, and it is Shiva. So yeah, you can call it dark matter or dark energy. That's what it's referred to in our current scientific thinking. But really, what it is Shiva. It's creation. So you think about creation for a moment, and you think that, okay, so if that which is creation is like the stars in the night sky, then they are minuscule, really, in comparison to the vast emptiness of space that is the big thing that contains all of that creation within. So we say then, talk about creation being held in the lap of Shiva. Creation is held in the lap of emptiness. Now, these are big concepts. But as water in the 5-element wheel, so just kind of like winding it back a little bit, as water in the 5-element wheel impacts each element profoundly, so it's really the only element that has an impact on all of the other 4 elements. It really determines everything about us. And as metal element, we were discussing earlier, the way that the metal element carves back and purifies. So as metal hands on its achievements and its failures to winter's passage at this time, right at this crossover, we are participating in that kind of continuous and endless channel through which life, creation, passes on its way to eternity. Eternity being the darkness. So, you know, the waters of the cosmos, whether you want to talk about them in their physical form, or expand them out metaphorically into deeper and wider concepts, these waters wash through and over us, and they're drawn to us by the kidneys, which is the yin organ of the water element. And they're passed through us by the action of the bladder, which is the yang organ or yang channel associated with the water element. Now, kidney stores the essence of our life. It here, down there in the lower back, right where that jing sits, which we talked about last week, and that kidney storehouse creates the cells out of which all of life develops, as each embryo lies kidney shaped in an amniotic ocean. So the cycle begins again. It's a tiny seed nestled deep in a watery bed, awaiting the light of spring to, draw it out. So there's nothing to do here. All of the language, all of the energy, all of the metaphor, all of the intention of water is not about doing. It is to acquiesce to the current. And that's incredibly difficult when inside of our humanness, we just want to know what's on the path ahead of us. But water, mist, obscures the path. And the answer is not ahead of you, the answer is within you. So there is nothing to do here, in inverted commas, other than to surrender to the current of water. It's to remove our fear of the dark, to remove that fear, and to come to find that actually a deep trust in life is what lays beneath that fear. If we can just erode the fear, if we can just let the fear wash away, we will find that we are deeply held by life. So, see the dark, the winter time, the kind of the unconscious dream state as like a cosmic soup of manifestation. Remember that, yes, this is the place of death, but it's also the place of resurrection. It's also the place of manifestation as the big thing, in inverted commas, that big thing that is actually your home. It's the comfortable darkness that's behind your eyes, and it's the one place. It's the one place that we can return to again and again with absolute certainty. Thank you, and namaste.